Okay, we are live. All right, it is June 22nd. I'm Joe, aka the Stoic Viking, and we're going to talk about some things that are a little bit different, things that are a little bit closer to my heart. We're going to talk about the World Cup and how that is changing people's perspective on the United States. So I'm somebody who grew up in Germany for the most part. I lived there till I was about 13, and then I moved to the United States. So moving to the continental United States when I was about 13. And after joining the military and then because of professional work, I spent a lot of my adult life abroad. So I'm somebody who has been able to see not only what the rest of the world looks like, but also the how people have stereotypes of the United States from outside the United States. Europe, especially, I think, is one of the biggest views or the biggest differences of how we what's actually going on versus how Europe actually views what is actually going on. And the World Cup, I think, is kind of shedding light on how big of the differences that there is. So, um, gotcha. All right. So I know, right? Take them to Detroit. Then they're like, "Oh, this is the America that I know." Yeah, fucking retards. Anyways, so a couple of things that we're gonna like discuss in this, right? So one of the things is before we get into some of the videos about people sort of experiencing what is going on what actually is going on in the United States, I want you guys to know what is being sort of portrayed to the rest of the world, especially Europe, about what's going on in America, right? Because you also have to understand there's a little bit of a political climate difference in the United States. Obviously, it's very polarized here in the United States, but it's also very polarized in Europe. But Europe generally tends to be more liberal in comparison to the United States. So because of everybody understands like the propaganda and the political posturing from both sides, from every party, with the Americans, the Republicans, the Democrats, the media companies that are owned by those particular parties will always push one narrative or the other. And in Europe, generally the liberal narrative is pushed a little bit more. So the sort of anti-American sentiment is pushed a little bit more within Europe, as kind of you can think of it how media on the left here acts, and then take it to Europe, and that kind of does it to a greater degree, if you will. So one of the and I'm gonna be honest, I have had my own stereotypes of places within the United States. For example, I'd never lived in the South. We're thinking of like the Southeast, like Alabama, Arkansas, uh, places like that, Georgia. And when I went down there for flight school, I too had my own stereotypes of what the South was like. And I can tell you that I was pleasantly surprised that the South was probably one of the nicest areas I ever went to. The people down there are just genuine and nice. You go to a gas station and it's common for that gas station attendant will talk to you for the next 10, 15 minutes if you'll let them. Like, just people will a lot of times will give you the shirt off their back. So so even I have experienced my own stereotypes within the United States, which I have been seeing that they're just stereotypes that other parts of the country and other parts of the world perpetuate for basically exaggerations. And it's a lot of times when you finally experience this stuff, it's very different. So yeah. So Eddie, so as a European, yes, it's true. The media is selling a version of the United USA completely biased in many areas. Many political here. Always there's a feeling of superior more morality. I can't fucking talk to that. And no, and that's absolutely true. And when I lived in Europe, And even when I've been there as an adult, as a professional doing professional type stuff, you see this all the time, and you'll go anywhere and you'll get stopped all the time, and people are like, "Oh, why? What do you guys think of Trump? Like, how do you guys?" They think like a lot of the of Europe is like, you can have your differences about what's going on in the United States, but in Europe, they will like stop you, a lot of people who don't really know understand what's going on, and they'll be like, how do you survive the United States while living under Trump, thinking that like he's like some version of Hitler? And it's really interesting because when you try to explain them, they're like, it's not like that. It's hard for them to comprehend, right? I think Americans, especially in the last like 10 years, we've seen the political shifts from when Trump first came in office, Biden, COVID, everything like that. We know the level of political posturing and propaganda that comes out of our media companies. And so we're kind of better acclimated to understanding that you shouldn't believe everything you actually hear. So the World Cup is really cool because it's bringing a lot of these, being able to see through a lot of this BS, if you will. And so, and I can tell you, so we're going to quickly go over some of the stereotypes, and then we're going to start watching some of these videos of people of Europeans experiencing America for like the first time, or getting to see some of the stereotypes. So one of the first ones is that the obviously is the difference between headlines and reality, because media companies are controlled essentially by political parties no matter where you go in the world. And because nobody um so all the news and everybody, like, what is good news, right? Or what is news, like how do companies make money, right? They want you glued to the TV or whatever device you're using, so they're going to report on stuff that is essentially bad. Just, that's the type of stuff that keeps your attention in this time and this age and time where people have attention spans that are measured in nanoseconds. You're going to see a lot of, most of the news is covers crime, riots, political fights, tragedy, disasters, and that's also another reason why people feel so like that the world is burning, like it's coming down, when we actually live in a safer society, in a safer world than ever has been in the history of the United States, of the world, really. But because we have this ability to access media and access it any time, and because media reports the bad things that are going on, like the things that are the events, we are being bombarded with all these negative things that are going on, and don't realize that one of the reasons why it didn't seem like that 50 years ago, 100 years ago, is because you just didn't have access to this level of news, the media, everything that's going on. So, ignorance is bliss. And now that we don't have that level of ignorance because of the internet and how the access we have to news, as soon as it happens, like someone could be taken alive of an airstrike going on in Iran, and it's instant world news automatically. It doesn't even have to be waited. We don't have to wait for them to be pushed out by mainstream media outlets anymore. So these one of the biggest stereotypes is that America is dangerous, right? It's probably the biggest stereotype. Many Europeans arrive expecting constant crime, mass shootings, because all they hear is about all the guns we have everywhere, that we have unsafe cities, and it's just straight chaos, right? Do we have cities that are not exactly the safest? Absolutely. But if you go anywhere in Europe, that's really not any different. In a lot of places, like, I don't know if you've been to London or what's going on in, certain countries, Paris, like London is particularly bad. Like, you know, it's I think that they, in comparison, when a lot of the Europeans come to the United States, they see some of the American cities, and in comparison, like, they're actually safer than a lot of these major metropolitan European cities. Um, yeah. Oh, Rack Shadow. All the women call you sugar, not bad. Yeah, they call you sugar. It just, everybody is super super pleasant. It's the South. The 3 years that I spent in Alabama for flight school was actually, I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I thought that I was going to agree. Uh, right. Okay. So, but then these Europeans get here, and then basically they're like, okay, most Americans are just simply living their normal lives. That we're not just out here using our guns, just shooting everybody in the face. Apparently, the second stereotype you probably see is that Americans are rude, uh, and it's ironic because most visitors will find the exact opposite. And I've especially traveling the world, and then I would come back to the United States. Definitely, most people majority of people in the United States are very nice, especially in the South. Uh, and it's just, it's definitely one of those stereotypes that quickly you just get here and um, it will be that stereotype will be quickly defeated. Or, uh, and then another one, and I hear this one all the time, and they think of this, and there's a lot of different reasons why they think this, but uh, Europeans have this stereotype that Americans are undereducated, uh, because it's and the reality is more complicated, right? Because remember, America is very geographically isolated, um, and a person can drive for days in America, and Europeans can often cross intentional borders regularly. Americans don't often. Right. So let me think about have better experiences. Sorry. So Europeans think that Americans are not as well educated, and I will admit that Americans are not as well cultured because because America is such a large country. A lot of Americans never leave the United States because you kind of have everything that you need within the United States, and um, e- especially if you're the type of person who's very driven and because America cannot be the easiest place because we have the ability for people to make their dreams come true, but it's a place where you generally you get out what you put in as far as the work goes. So America has the ability you can make yourself into anything, but we don't have the same social like nets that some of the other European countries, but that's kind of like the give and take with the capabilities to make yourself to essentially reach whatever dream that you may have, right? So, but when Americans do travel, and the ones who are cultured, you get to see this, right? So I will say that generally Americans are not as cultured, but the ones, but when then that's the other thing is when Europeans do come here, that's why we're so curious. Like that's why most Americans are so curious, and they're just like, hey, they meet, and you'll see a lot of these videos like the Scotsmans, the British, even the Japanese, that the Americans are just fascinated, just want to know more and more about your country. But you also have to remember, while we may come off as like not as well cultured, but Americans are very well educated. We have many of the world's best universities. There's a reason why the leading technology companies, majority of them are here. Major research institution, global businesses. There's a lot of different things that are within the United States, but there's nuance, right? And the reality is far nuanced than the stereotype. And another one is this kind of like this scale shock, right? Everything in Europe and a lot of other places, especially Europe, is very condensed. Your roads, your buildings, your cities, everything. And the everything in the United States, especially if you go to Texas, the Midwest, uh, even out the West Coast, like basically everything is outside of the Northeast. Everything is kind of spread out, right? And they see these massive highways, airports, our stadiums are huge. Like you have to remember, like in Europe and most other places, the only places that have stadiums are professional sports. We have stadiums for colleges that are larger than their professional sports. And that's just crazy. That's one of the reasons. I don't know if you guys have seen the amount of money that we are spending to host the World Cup. We are actually spending the least amount of money in like the last 6 World Cups because most countries, especially the UAE, I think it's costing us $8 billion to host it. It costs UAE 220 billion because they had to build a lot of these stadiums. Cost Russia like 15 billion because they had to build a couple stadiums. We don't have to build any stadiums because our colleges are big enough to host World Cup games. So That's kind of one of the things that kind of blows people away. Um, and then uh one of the other one is that people think that like we're just a bunch of fat people who eat fast food, right? And yeah, there are fat people here. There are definitely fat people. There are fat people, you know, it's definitely one of the things that you could definitely easily get fat here. But our food, us being a melting pot of the world, like, immigration, everything like that, is that people come here and because they can make businesses, we have so many amazing cuisines that come here, and then fusions of amazing food. That's one of the things I've always loved is just like you go to different parts of the United States, different cities, and you will find different things. Like you go to Maryland, everything has I'm trying to think of the seasoning that they put on, Old Bay seasoning, everything, whether it's your drinks, your margaritas, everything has it. You go to Texas, you can have your Tex-Mex, which is obviously your fusion of your Texas and Mexican cuisine, which one of my favorites, right? And you can go anywhere, and just the food, you can find amazing food no matter where you go. So, and then also, so the World Cup is showing to people that America has this amazing ability to host the World Cup, because I think a lot of people doubted that because we're not a huge soccer country, right? At least in comparison to like, is it our favorite sport? No, it's not the most popular sport here, right? And then now they're experiencing America's hospitality, America's infrastructure, America's friendliness, our diversity, which is, I think, what a lot of people don't realize is like how many cultures live here, come here, and are like living that American dream, who love the United States, who used to live in these countries, who used to look down upon the United States. And just people from all over the world are having positive experiences in the United States, and it's like literally all over the internet. It's like probably one of those popular like threads that you could go down. It's just like Europeans or just people experiencing the United States or the World Cup, and you'll actually have quite a bit of fun. So, and let's call a spade a spade. America isn't perfect, just like any other country, but and because America does have its problem, crime does exist, political division definitely exists. We have our own economic challenges, but the issue isn't whether America has problems, because every nation does. The issue is whether those problems are accurately defined, you know, for the American life. And that's one of the cool things that people are starting to get to experience is like any place, you've got your cons, but you've also got your pros. And a lot of the Europeans and the rest of the people in the world are getting to experience those pros, if you will. So, all right. Oh, and also one of the things, especially people in Europe, but I get this the most in England, is they do not understand how large the United States is. And because when you're in a country like England, or especially if you live most of your life in a smaller country or one of the larger cities in Europe, you use public transportation and you walk to a lot of places. And in the United States, especially if you live outside of the Northeast, but even in the Northeast, you have to drive everywhere. Like you cannot survive in Texas without having a vehicle. Like just trying to drive across from one side of Houston, Texas to the other is like driving across a country in Europe. And it's just crazy. So you cannot drive. And then when people are like, "Oh, in America, we don't say how far things are." Like when you're asking, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to this place. How far is it?" We don't say it in miles. We say of how long it takes. And if we were to like, "Hey, I live about 2 hours away," people in Europe are like, "That's crazy. That's so far." For us, it's like something that's an hour away. A lot of Americans live an hour away from where they work, and that's normal. And that's a normal commute. And this kind of blows the European mind, if you will. Um, but yeah. All right. So we're gonna watch some videos that I found, which I think are hilarious. So there's a couple people, and I've been following some of these accounts for a while now. It's just really interesting to always get like the perspective of Europeans who come over here and then are able to kind of see through a lot of the things that they had been told. and sort of their reaction to it. And now the ones that have already been here and have already kind of made that switch, that change in their mind, and now they get to sort of be the ambassadors for other Europeans. For the ones coming to the World Cup is really interesting. So, right. You know what? I think I have. Let me see if this blows up. All right, I have this on my very wide screen, so just leave me a second. Let me change this. All right. So let me know.
Of all the countries out.
No, I'm sorry. This is the wrong one.
Is happening.
All right. Let me know if you guys can to hear this. Yeah. All right.
You see it. People who aren't American who have traveled to the World Cup are realizing they've been lied to. Before traveling to America, foreigners would just think America is this place they would hear about on the news all the time. It's a horrible place. But when you strip that back, like I've been doing for years, traveling America, so many different states, you realize the beauty of America, the different cultures, how amazing the people are. And the World Cup has allowed people outside of America to see America through their own eyes, not through their country's media eyes. This is incredible, and I couldn't be happier for America. The world is realizing when you strip back the negativity you get and you realize how beautiful America really is. It is the best. It is the reason it is my favorite country on planet Earth. Every state is like its own country. You have so many different cultures, so much beautiful scenery, and people are realizing it. People are finally realizing it. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier for America. And
so this is a guy his account is I'm Josh for England. He's actually been here for I just knocked it for a couple of years, and yeah, it's kind of funny to see. He's been one of the few Brits who makes a lot of content about a lot of the American stereotypes that he has debunked with his own two eyes, if you will. So
describe it, and I'm overwhelmed with love.
She's another Brit who also kind of was already here.
You're gonna.
Let me see if I can fix this.
Major shock this summer, and here's why. Hundreds of thousands and potentially millions descending onto the US this summer for the World Cup, you're going to finally experience American culture. People from around the world are going to understand that Americans are some of the nicest, kindest, and friendliest people that you will meet on planet Earth. They'll learn that the hospitality of Americans is top tier, and also they'll want to learn about you, learn about your country, where do you come from, and they'll also buy you a drink too. As a Brit who lives in America, I can assure you that the American people are fantastic and you have nothing to worry about. If you're interested about my life in America, drop me a follow. World is going to be in.
All right. So, you can already see that, like, you know, the ones who are already living here, they already knew that, like, when the Europeans came, because these guys probably had very similar views on the United States, and their views were changed, and they're excited for the rest of the world to experience the same things that they did. And like I said, I'm somebody who's, you know, who's lived outside the United States most of my adult life, and so I get to experience all the time getting to leave, and it's really cool to go to many other places in the world, but there is really no other place like this country. And when I come back, you definitely see some cool things that other people in the world are doing, like other countries. But overall, the things that we do in this country, like, generally do think this is the coolest country in the world, in comparison, you know, for a lot of different things. And also, if anybody doesn't know, I grew up in Germany. So I was like 13, and I actually played in the German soccer system, and I actually went to college on a soccer scholarship. So I am a very big fan of the World Cup, because that was that was the most popular sport in my family and most important sport of my life at the time. So yeah, so the World Cup means a lot to me in a lot of different ways, and obviously everything that's going on culturally with the Europeans getting to experience the United States because of the World Cup is a pretty cool thing that's going on right now. What are the rudest people that you have met so far? I would say the rudest people in the United States are people in the Northeast. I would say anywhere from uh DC or Baltimore all the way up to New York. But you know, there's still a lot of really nice people in these cities. So it's like um I think generally culturally, this is a generalization that Northeast people compared to the other portions of the United States are the least nice. Or like if you are going to run into some people who are kind of jerks, it's generally going to be in the Northeast of the United States. Oh, me, yeah, like Boston, New Jersey. All right, okay, I get you, Johan. So in my experience of every place that I lived in Germany, been to England, almost every country in Europe. I spent a lot of time in Africa, the Middle East, South America. I will tell you that I think that the rudest people, right? And I'm going to bring this to a city. The rudest people, in my particular opinion, are Parisians, right? Which are people who live in Paris. Like France is not, if anybody doesn't really know that culturally, right? This is another generalization. The least liked country in all of Europe, that majority of countries that are like, if you were to ask majority of people within Europe who their least favorite country in Europe is, most people will say France. And when you think about the really rude people within France, there's a lot of really nice people in France. Most people are thinking of the Parisians, right? The people who live in Paris, because it's like a place where you go most places in the world, like Italy, uh, Portugal, and you try to attempt to speak their language, they're actually going to be like, "Oh, that's awesome. You're trying to speak your language." People get really annoyed if you even try to speak French in Paris. So that's probably, if I had to pick a group of people who I think are the rudest people that I have met, it's Parisians. So, and maybe French in general are a little stuck up, but there are some really nice French people. So I don't want to throw all of France under there, but there's a reason why most European countries are not the biggest fans of La France. Um, Joshua George, Paris people only speak French, not English. No, that's actually not true, because I can tell you, my friend, that if you are uh, anybody who comes in, and obviously either you're American, you're British, you're Australian, someone who they can tell your native language is English, and you try to speak to a Parisian in French, unless you are fluent with the proper accent, they will they will very look at you very kind of like coldly, and they will just they will respond to you in English. That is what they do. So they definitely speak English, and they speak English when they feel like you are butchering their language. So yeah. So all right. Let's so you got, and then let's I think there was a good follow-on video from our boy Josh here. So let me play this.
America, you deserve and are owed an apology. And I'm going to say sorry on behalf of all the countries outside America and their media and the narrative they paint about America. Hundreds and thousands of fans for the World Cup are now seeing America through their own eyes, realizing the narrative they've been fed is false. And they're now realizing America is not the place that they thought it was. And I am sorry the media in these countries outside of America paints you the way they do. America is rich in culture, scenery, the people are amazing. And the media in the countries outside of America paint this weird narrative that it's a place that you shouldn't go. But now the tides are changing. There is a shift that is happening. And I'm sorry you've been painted in this light for so long. And I'm so happy America is finally receiving the flowers that it deserves. We've all seen the videos of the Europeans experiencing America for what it truly is.
So I want to stop this right here just because I think that the timing for this is actually really good because we've even had this kind of cultural shift within the United States because I think that we, for a while, like especially probably from 2000 to 2000, 2020 to 2024 with the Biden administration, with COVID, with everything that was going on, there was a growing sentiment even within the United States of anti-Americanism. Like it was common for Americans to basically get upset if you were flying an American flag. So luckily that we've sort of shifted back away from that, and we've kind of very proud of our American pride again within this country. And I think that is awesome timing for this World Cup, because if not, they would have showed up and they would have been kind of like, in a way, like how Germany is when Germany is very sort of shy when it comes to their own national pride, because Germans will, like, if you're like, I love Germany, right? Other Germans would be like, hey, they kind of raise an eyebrow, be like, hey, calm down. Obviously they're complicated history, but they'd be kind of equivalent, like we coming here and then like we wouldn't be able to show that level of American pride that we do, that really no other country really does. So I think it's great timing for the World Cup to happen. And we're probably, as we go in our ebbs and flows of pro America within America, we're definitely at a high point, and I think it's perfect for this particular event that's going on right now. Let's finish.
And it's amazing. When I first landed in America all those years ago, I came with an open mind. I saw it through my own eyes. And it's exactly what is happening right now with all the traveling fans for the World Cup and the foreigners. They are seeing America through their own eyes, and they're realizing how amazing it actually is. America, you deserve and are owed an apology.
Yeah. So, you can go all over social media, X, Instagram, and you're seeing a lot of these posts where just these Europeans are just like, oh my God, this is awesome. There's
really,
these are some fun ones. We'll go to these in a second. This is, I feel like a lot of these are Brits. Let's do a little Scotsman going on right here. Oh, here's one.
Well, American-style breakfast and Philly cheesesteaks also earning a nod of approval, both greasy and delicious. And some fans embracing items they already love with an American twist. Sam Adams Tap House in downtown Boston running dry. This after selling 4,000 pints of their Boston lager in a 3-day span. That is nearly 90 kegs, mostly enjoyed over Scotland, Morocco. That was the game on Friday.
You're going to notice a trend in a lot of these videos. I think of all the European nations that have come here, or any group or countries that are probably making the most headlines, it's the Scots. And it's to nobody's surprise that the Scots are definitely making headlines when it comes to drinking. If you know what the Scots are known for, and if anybody's watches a lot of movies and movie critics, and everybody knows who the critical drinker is, it's a stereotype for a reason.
Friday, and while Scotland lost that match, fans just love going crazy for their favorite team.
We're 8 minutes in now, surely. Come on now.
And that is one of them. With us now, Scottish fan Blair McNally. Blair, it is great to have you. We were just getting a look at that clip that you saw, and that was your reaction to the big win just days ago. What was going through your heart and mind in that moment? And did you think your team could pull out a win?
Well, it's been a long, long wait. It's been 28 long years. My whole lifetime I've waited for this moment. So to see my country qualify for the World Cup, first of all, was a really emotional time. I think everyone in that stadium cried. But to see my country actually win a match at the World Cup, wow, honestly, no words can describe that feeling. You see it in the emotions of the videos that I've done. You see it in the emotions of the fans all around this trip.
Also, everybody doesn't know, so Scotland's actually already been eliminated from the World Cup because they lost twice. And I think this goes for any professional sports team, fans. You can tell a lot from the fans of how they act when they lose, right? And one of the things I think that's amazing about the Scots is, one, they're just so happy because it's been a long time since their team has qualified to be within the World Cup. And there's a couple teams within this World Cup who have not been in the World Cup in a long time. Norway is one of them. But how the Scots, and a lot of these clips are even after how the Scots, even though they lost, they're just celebrating. They're having an amazing time. So I think also this goes both ways. A lot of the Europeans are getting to experience American culture, but we are also getting to experience some of the awesome cultures that are coming here. And I think Scotland is definitely one of the best cultures that we are enjoying as a people.
So happy to be here. It's been an incredible trip. And you know what? Boston has only just started it. We're going to Miami.
Also, I think it's appropriate. I believe, what is it referred to as the Tarshan Army, that Scotland, because so the World Cup is in 3 different countries. It's in Canada, it's the United States, and it's in Mexico. Every single World Cup team picked a base of operations within these 3 countries, and they came here probably about a month prior. So when they're not playing, they go back to these particular cities. And I believe Scotland chose, the Scottish World Cup team chose its base of operations Boston, which I think, if anybody, as we just talked about, their ability to drink both Ireland and Scotland, I think Boston was a very appropriate town for them to make their base of operations.
Now, and honestly, it's a Tartan Army takeover.
Yeah, and it's got to be a must win. So it's going to be an exciting match. It is so fun to see fans just like yourself loving all that America has to offer. We've been following the Instagram accounts with World Cup fans loving barbecue, biscuits and gravy, country music, good old American hospitality. What have been some of the highlights of your trip thus far?
Can I be honest with you? The American people have been absolutely incredible. I mean, we come over here, the media kind of portrayed an image that America is not so much of a nice place to come. So
we just talked about this. This is like, as he's telling you, he's a Scot, right? And as Scot, of all some European countries think of us a little bit higher than others, and Scots are actually probably don't think of this as exactly the worst. And so this is coming from a Scot. So
portrayed an image that America is not so much of a nice place to come. So wrong. Since we've come over here, they've been so accommodating. It has really just been like a second home to us. And honestly, let's call Boston New Scotland, because I don't think it's New England anymore. I think it's now Scottish. We've taken over the place, but we've taken over it in a good standard. We've not shown ourselves up. We have given a good account of ourselves, as we always do. And you know what? It's been the trip of a lifetime. So from Scotland fans, I just want to thank you guys as a country. You have been amazing. And let's get going for Miami, because we're not finished yet.
Well, that just wells me up with so much pride. What a beautiful sentiment.
It's pretty cool. So, Edusab, one of the biggest issues from so Edusab says, this is one of the big issues in many EU countries. In the US, there's a lot of pride of being an American, but here in some EU countries, we are treated like being a fascist or ultra-right party. This is absolutely true. One of the best examples of this is Poland. Back when the mid-2010s, when a lot of European countries were very pro-migration, and you had countries like Finland and Sweden and some of the Nordic countries who were like bragging about how many people they were letting in. The only country that was like keeping its foot down, was like, we don't want other people's culture, was Poland. And Poland was, and I believe it was the president at the time, I can't remember his name, was being basically the Polish people were being called racist because they wouldn't let people come in. And there was a recent study that came out. It talked about the number of rapes that were going on in European countries 10 years prior. And almost every country, including England, France, Finland, every single country had the rapes within their countries have went up 10 times. The only country that the number of rapes actually went down in the last 10 years, because mind you, every single European country except one country went up by 10 times. The only country that their number of rapes actually went down was Poland. So, take that information how you want. You can look up the studies yourself. But I think that having national pride can be a very good thing. The one thing that you need to caveat this with is having national pride is like, I have an awesome country, but it doesn't mean that you hate other people because of it, right? Everybody can enjoy everybody else's cultures. Like, I'm an American. I come from like an ancestry of Irish and Norwegian, right? And I got to live in Germany, and I still to this day, growing up in Germany was one of the almost amazing things because I love German culture. I love German food. I obviously think America is amazing, but I still appreciate these other cultures. So you can have pride within your own country while also enjoying other cultures as well in other countries. So I think that's very important, where people were afraid of too much national pride is when you think everybody else is inferior to maybe the way the Germans felt in the 1920s and the 1940s. So that's probably, if you want to think about a distinction to avoid those pitfalls that those countries and those cultures led into, it's to appreciate your country. You can think that you're the best, but also appreciate other cultures. Lay Diamond Dog, what's up, brother? All right. So let's see here. Did any countries withdraw because it was in the U.S. this year, Joe? No, not that I know of. Iran is here. So if Iran, who we are in an active conflict with, still comes, you're kind of, you got to think about this, right? So a lot of these teams don't, it's actually very hard to qualify for the World Cup, right? And mind you, only 8 countries in the history of the World Cup have ever even won the World Cup. So it's a very select few, and not even some of the big 8, right? Even qualify every single World Cup. So if you're a country, one of these fringe countries that hasn't qualified in the last 20, 30 years, like say, you're Scotland, are you going to not come because of politics? Nah, bro. If you do, you're just embarrassing yourself at that point, brother. Oh, that's awesome. Argentina, baby. Yeah, I'm enjoying I was planning to watch the Argentina game after this. Because I play polo, and the sport of polo is actually dominated by the country of Argentina. There's a lot of Argentina influence around where I'm at, and I've been there a number of times for mainly polo stuff, but I very much enjoy a lot of the Argentine people, and I'm a big fan of personally Messi. So, but yeah, okay. So let's watch some of these fun clips so you'll see these are videos of. So I think one of the coolest is Norway. I think both Scotland and Norway are interesting because Scotland has not been in the World Cup in the last 28 years. And I think the last time World Cup Norway was in the World Cup, I think was 24 years ago. So, these are 2 different countries who have definitely showing themselves in a very positive light since being here. So what I think I love is so Norway fans, they do this chant, and it's called the row, the RO, or some people call it the Viking row, where you have somebody on the drums, and they beat, and everybody does the row thing. Well, Norway has taken over. Let me show this. Norway has taken over Times Square. Where is this thing? Oh, so this is the row thing that they did. So this is in Times Square, and you'll see this. I've seen them do these on escalators. They do this all the time. And then here's them so anybody who's ever been to Times Square, they have like these like where they do like the yoga in Times Square. It's a big thing. You pay a lot of money, and the Norwegians are trolling the people who are doing the yoga, but to be honest, they're doing it in a really fun way, and you'll see.
And draw the arm bones into each other and the leg bones draw towards one another. Use that lengthening to stretch arm down. Did you feel power?
That's just good, clean fun. You gotta. Oh, I saw this one. So anybody who does not understand some of the culture isms in the United States. So Nashville is probably one of the safest major metropolitan cities. It's known for a couple of things, mainly two things. One, it is the center of country music. And two, it is the center of bachelorette parties. If you are a woman and you are going to if you have a friend or a fiance and they're going to a bachelorette party, 9 times out of 10 they're going to Nashville. So when I was at 5th Group Special Forces, me and a couple friends, 5th Group is located in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is about an hour north of Nashville. So a couple of us actually ended up renting a condo in Nashville just so we could not be in the Clarksville, Tennessee area, which is a kind of a horrible military town. And I can't even begin to tell you, when you walk around Nashville, almost you see nonstop bachelorette parties. It's ridiculous. So, I'm sure that these Scotland fans who are in Nashville definitely got to experience the full multitude of all the bachelorette parties, as in Rock Shadow very eloquently put it, in that we call it Nash Vegas. Scots are honestly just crushing it everywhere they go. To be honest, I didn't intend this to be like such a pro Scotland live stream, but now the more that I think about it, it's just having a good show of themselves, which I appreciate. I'm glad that we're getting to experience how awesome the Scots are. I think it's more about that. It's an interesting. I think there's a guy who
we owe America a huge apology, because America is nothing like what the media tells us. Everyone is so friendly, everyone is so accommodating, and I've honestly had the best time. I fly home Sunday, and the English have a song where we say, "Please don't take me home. I just don't want to go to work. Let me stay here and drink all your beer." And I've never resonated with that song more than in America for this World Cup. I wish I could stay and finish the tournament watching England. So if anyone is out there that can help me make this happen, then please let me know. I want nothing more than to stay in the USA, finish the World Cup, and meet more fantastic Americans.
That's awesome. It's just like a really cool, like, growing sentiment, And I wish this with every country. Like, if you like, there's so many amazing cultures out there, and it's really one of the dumbest things for us not to be able to experience, or for us to be misled just because of some political differences between American culture and European culture, and the political divisiveness that's even going within inside the United States versus what's going on inside of Europe, because Europe has its own level of political divisiveness, like that we were going on right now. Look at what's going on with England, what's going on with the resignation of, is it Starmer? Yeah, I think it's Starmer. The Keith Starmer, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. Sometimes I butcher these names, or just I don't have the greatest memory in the world. So interesting thing about this, Joshua George, Norway has Erling Haaland. So the last time that Norway was in the World Cup was 1998. There are 3 members on this World Cup team, including Erling Haaland, who their fathers were on the 1998 World Cup Norway team, and that includes Erling's father and two other members who were on the Norway team. Their fathers were on the 1998 team, which I think that's pretty cool. Yes. Someone asked me if you've seen a lot of videos from people from Asia, and so this is okay. So obviously, we're gonna couple of these, right? Here is a South Korean. Mexico beat South Korea, and also kind of cool, and like how the Mexicans treated this one South Korean guy. It's cool that Mexico is also taking pride in showing their culture to the rest of the world. I was just trying to kiss this dude. He's like, nah, bro. If anybody who knows South Koreans and what they're attracted to, that girl's too big for him. Where is... Actually, let me see. This might be farther down. Oh, here I found it. Okay. So here is a Japan dude who is they're doing the competition. Anybody who drinks a Guinness, the goal is to, after it's been properly poured, because remember, it has to be properly poured. Anybody who understands Guinness, it has to be properly poured. If not, you screw it all up. But you drink it to the point and you guess to where you stop, and then the line of the beer stops, and you're trying to cut the G in Guinness in half. And apparently this is one of the first times with this guy from Japan.
It's got to be here, yeah. Ready? Guys, put the G. It's like 3 big swings. 3. Ready?
So mind you, this is an American teaching this Japanese dude this.
Down and go.
And this is his first time doing this. And he crushed it. He crushed it. That's legit, baby. I know that there are, let's see, there's a couple other ones that I saw, especially with the Japanese and the Scots. Maybe that was the only one. But there's just a lot of really cool. It's starting to rain, so I live on a farm. So if you guys... okay, well, here's some videos for...
Excuse me.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw this. Okay, here's good ones. So here's some Japanese. This is a compilation of clips of Japanese experience, the American culture for the first time. So, and actually, there's a lot of videos about specifically, because a lot of people don't eat food with their hands outside the United States. Obviously not Ethiopia and other countries like that, but a lot of European countries. So people having to eat barbecue because you eat barbecue with your hands. It's definitely one of the things.
Wow. That's your first ever bite of Texas barbecue. What do you think? Amazing! Hey, that's a shark. I love it.
He said barbecue was like as big as he was. Oh yeah, cowboy culture.
I cannot speak English, but I'm excited!
Like this.
USA,
Amen.
Japan,
Okay.
and USA. I love it.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Thank you very
Oh
much.
yes, I love hugs.
Yeah. When people try to say America doesn't have any culture, brah, trust me. There's we have Americanisms for a good thing. And luckily, I think they're being seen as very positive these days, which is good. Yeah, Afghan is yes, definitely a culture that does eat with their hands, right? But I would say that the cultures that don't are mainly European, and East Asian cultures do not eat with their hands. So it's definitely where you're going to see a lot of the big differences. So interesting. I found this video. So of all the countries that are sort of not about their national pride, it's Germany, right? And also in comparison within the European countries, Germany is also kind of one of the more liberal countries who also kind of see America with a sort of not the greatest lens. So this is an interesting video where this is specifically a German who moved to the United States, obviously loves his country, loves his people, and this is him specifically talking about what's going on, and then what were the stereotypes and
The
what he
Soccer
is
World
seeing.
Cup is doing something no politician, no news channel, and no documentary could do. It is changing how people see America, because for the first time, a lot of Europeans are not just hearing about America from the media. They are actually here. They are walking into Walmart. They are talking to Americans. They are eating real American food. They're seeing American.
All right, if anybody's not tried ketchup flavored chips, I'm going to be honest, it's amazing. I didn't even know this was a thing until about a year ago. Ketchup flavored chips. I don't know why that flavor is just fire. It just is. If you haven't tried it, trust me, go find you some ketchup flavored potato chips. Fire.
Flex everywhere. They are driving through this massive country, and you can literally see them.
I love that he's driving a Ford truck, because that just better illustrates that particular part of the video. Because America, baby, us and trucks. Like me, I own a Ram 2500 Hemi engine because I pull a trailer full of horses. So, I do try to pretend I'm a cowboy too.
Minds changing in real time. And honestly, I understand it. Because I'm German. I grew up in Germany with the European version of America. Dangerous, fake, unhealthy, extreme.
Yes. And there is some truth to this, right? This isn't all like untrue, but this is what he's pointing out, is that Europeans think that all Americans look like this, right? When it's not necessarily true, right? Like we definitely do have a pretty high obesity rate, but with a lot of things within the United States, you have a pretty wide spectrum. You have some of the most fittest people in the world, best athletes in the world. There's a reason why we crush the Olympics every single, have a highest medal count, but we also have some of the fattest people, right? You can draw a lot of parallelisms, wow, and other things with the freedoms that you get in this country. You can either screw up your life, which really, let's be honest, people who are obese, that's their own choices. What they do with their hand area, how they put things up in this area, that's their own fucking decisions. But you have the ability to do whatever you want. Some people, when they have freedoms, screw it all up. Some people crush it and become Elon Musk and the world's first trillionaire. Just saying.
Too loud, too patriotic, too much of everything. Now I live here, and the longer I live in America, the more I realize how wrong that picture was. I know this might sound dramatic, but I really mean it. I love this country. I think America is the greatest country in the world. Not because it's perfect. It is not perfect. No country is. But because America has something that is very rare. Energy, optimism, freedom, warmth, ambition, and this feeling that your life can actually change. And I
think that's one of the biggest parts, is like, when people look at, like, okay, they talk about the social nets that are going off in European countries, right? One of the reasons why they're able to do that is because, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at this, and there's a lot of different reasons, but just to simplify it, right? You have those countries tax way more of your income than they do in the United States. And we have a lot more tax incentives. Some people call them tax loopholes, but they're tax incentives for people who want to start businesses, who want to create things. And America provides the ability to try to make things, to make more of yourself, to build these companies, to build, this amazing dream. And one of the drawbacks is we have less social safety nets. So some people, get screwed in the process, right? It's not a perfect system, right? But there is, as a reason why capitalism is not a perfect system, but it is currently the best system. It is the only economic system that has been able to pull countries out of poverty, right? Remind you, I'm going to reiterate this again. It's not a perfect system. It is just currently the best system. Will the human society eventually create a better system than, essentially our version of capitalism? Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they do. But, it is the reason why we have the most people who become millionaires and billionaires within this country than any other nation in the world. And there's a reason for that.
You enjoy hearing America through the eyes of a German who was told the opposite, subscribe. And let's get into it. Because what is happening right now with the World Cup is bigger than soccer. For years, Europeans have been told a very specific story about America. America is broken. It is dangerous. Americans are fake. American food is terrible. American patriotism is weird. American cities are collapsing.
You say American food is bad, bro. We're not England, dog. We're not England. All right. Okay. Also, I want to throw this up. All right. So my mother was Irish, and my mother cooked traditional Irish cooking. So if anybody knows anything about traditional Irish cooking, there's no seasoning. All right. And so I grew up on this very bland, I think of it's a very bland cuisine, which is traditional Irish cooking. So I'm not the biggest fan of not only Irish cooking, not only the biggest fan of Scottish cooking, and a lot of food that you would traditionally find in England. Obviously, there are, just like in the United States, you have restaurants that come to those countries and you'll open up sushi restaurants, all things like that. That's awesome. But if we're talking about traditional styles of cooking within a country, I'm not exactly a fan of what happens in the British Isles. So I'm actually obsessed with everything like hot. I love Mexican food. I love Indian food, and I actually like things really spicy. And I'm not talking about like white boy spicy. I'm talking about like native spicy. Like when I usually go order like Indian food, curry, or even go to Mexican places, they're like, "Hey, do you like it spicy?" They're like, they kind of give me that eye, like, "You mean like white boy spicy?" I was like, "No, Mexican spicy, or that Korean spicy," because anybody who knows Korean spice and Mexican spice, those are two different worlds. And so I get the non-white boy spicy. I get the next level. I get that native spicy. So all right, let's answer some questions before we go into this, because I'm getting a little carried away with myself. Let's see. Germany, the rise of the nationalism, like the party Alternative Deutschland, will soon main party in Germany, is dangerous. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really following the politics that are going on in Germany, but I just know how Germany feels about national pride. They're so afraid of repeating what they did during World War II and World War One. The Diamond Dog, national pride is kind of the same in France. You rarely see flags in the streets. Maybe in the World Cup, yeah. I've seen that as well when I've been in France, but you really definitely see this in a lot of countries, with the exception of countries, like a few countries like Poland and other things like that, who people in general don't have the level of national pride that you find in the United States. And there's a lot of you could trace it back to a lot of different cultural reasons. We are one of the few countries who almost like idolizes our military, right? We put them up on a pedestal and appreciate them. But you go to most countries, you go to England, right? And you meet somebody in the service. If most people within England this is generalization, are generally going to see somebody in England who joined the military who's like British as somebody who just didn't do very well in school, and then they didn't have any options. Like, that's just kind of one of the differences of way that other European countries see people within the military, while we see as like, oh, that's awesome, you chose to serve. That's like, that's that selfless service kind of thing, versus, oh, you just weren't smart enough to do something else. So that's kind of a difference of the viewpoints, if you will. We have a mixed system here in Sweden. Yeah. So a lot of things that people get wrong about the Nordic countries is because, and honestly, get that wrong, is because we had a lot of Democrats who were like idolizing the social, because when you look at like the crime statistics and a lot of things at how well the people in the Nordic countries do, like Sweden, Finland, Norway, they think that the Nordic countries are socialist countries when they're not, right? They're actually capitalist countries with really good social welfare systems, and there's a huge difference, right? So yeah, as our boy here said, that Sweden has a mixed system. That's exactly what that means, right? They're a capitalist society with a pretty nice social welfare system. Like when I talk about that social welfare safety net, theirs is a bit higher, right? They take care of their people a little bit more. They don't have maybe a lot of these same incentives that we do for people who are emerging, but like a lot of the Nordic countries, in Sweden included, they have sort of like a kind of a balance of both of those systems. All right, we'll finish.
I fear it's just guns, fast food, and chaos. And over the last few years, there has also been this whole trend of content creators who basically built their whole channels on one message: America is falling apart. They walk through the worst streets they can find. They show the most extreme examples. They take one weird thing and present it like it represents over 300 million people. And of course, America has problems. Every country has problems. But when that is all you show, you are not showing the real version.
Yeah, Johan, yeah, you're absolutely right. They do think you're socialist, but it's also mainly because it's weaponized by the portion of our political party of the Democrats who like, you got your Bernie Sanders guys who are more on the farther left, which are pushing more towards that socialist agenda. And this has been debunked numerous times. They try to use the Nordic countries because they are so successful in their population. Their obviously the crime has went up in a number of years. It's kind of all over Europe, but they try to use it as, because they do have such a good social welfare system, that people who are undereducated, they will then basically present it in a way that are like, oh, socialism is awesome, when they're being disingenuous. Like that's not actually the case. This is a different system. This is actually a mixed system that combines capitalism with some socialist aspects to its social welfare system. But yeah, it's like a lot of things. You have to be very careful. Things get propagandized. Things get weaponized by medias and political parties. Like this is true in every single country, especially in the United States, where it's a war. It's a political ideology war.
You're showing a cartoon, and I think a lot of Americans are thinking the same as me. Finally, people are seeing the country where we actually live in, not the version they were shown on TV, not the version they saw on angry TikTok, not the version from people who already decided they hate it, but the real America. Normal people, normal restaurants, normal roads, normal families, normal conversations. And that is why so many Europeans are shocked. They're not discovering a perfect country. They are discovering a real country. And that is already enough to destroy a lot of stereotypes. One of the first things many...
So I like this. I like this series of things that he shows, because in very few countries do you have just a landscape, a different ecosystems of, we've got the western side, we've got mountains, we've got beaches, we've got the northeast, the southeast. We so many different cultures within the United States, and a lot of them are so unique. Like if anybody has ever been to like what Montana looks like, or Wyoming, a lot of like the mountainous kind of like Midwestern, the more northern states, it's just some of the most beautiful, just interesting landscapes. And we really do have a really just diverse country, just from its own, like just the landscape and the different sort of ecological areas within the country. And some of the cultures that within the United States that a lot of people that we do not have anywhere, like cowboy culture, right? Outside of a few other countries, like Mexico has definitely adopted cowboy culture, but cowboy culture sort of came between that Texas, Mexico region. But in Argentina, they have they're called gauchos, which are their version of kind of like cowboys. They don't wear cowboy hats. They actually wear kind of these like other like more like French style like side beret hats that they have, but just very unique. It's one of the best parts of it. Luckily, with shows like Yellowstone have really highlighted that have really made that cowboy culture popular again. just kind of like the Viking shows kind of made that old school like Viking culture popular again.
European notice is the energy here. In Europe, especially in Germany, the mood can be.
Yeah, so let's go back to this. So when he's talking about, and this is a great example of showing the energy, right?
Types. One of the first things many European notice is the energy here.
Right? This is a college, right? So most stadiums in Europe, we're talking about like Germany, Bundesliga, like the most professional, the most popular sports in all of Europe, and their stadiums with their most popular teams don't hold as many people as our college football stadiums. And we have hundreds of, obviously the Auburn Tigers are one of the most popular, the biggest football schools in America, but like there's actually more energy. If anybody's been to a college football game, especially if you go to Auburn or some of the big schools like in the SEC and other ones like that, there's actually more energy in the college football games than there are in the NFL games. That's crazy, right? So I think this is a good example, and that's one of the biggest differences, because people who go to Europe, right, they don't give a shit about college sports. You will never see, barely ever, any college anything televised, right? And our college events, in a lot of ways, are bigger than our professional events, especially when it comes to football. And you think about it, that's crazy, right? This is just a random college in Georgia.
In Europe, especially in Germany, the mood can be very happy. People complain a lot. People are cynical. People are careful with optimism. And patriotism is often treated like something suspicious. In Germany, if you say you love Germany too loudly, people immediately get nervous. And I understand why.
And this is definitely a thing. And I was cautioned as Americans to, like, when we got there, because we lived on the German economy, we lived in a German town. We're the only Americans who lived in this German town. We played for the German soccer teams. And we were told by the Germans there, like, hey, because they knew how much we love Germany and how much we love the culture. They even told us to like keep it down, to keep it quiet. And again, mind you, this was in the 80s and the 90s when, so this has been a thing for essentially the longest time.
History is complicated, but sometimes I think we went so far in the other direction that people forgot something very important. It is not wrong to love your country. The Europeans come to America and suddenly there are American flags everywhere, on houses, on trucks, at stadiums, at gas stations, everywhere.
I'm glad that we've sort of went back to this, because anybody who knows, like around the COVID time, like was this growing like anti-American flag sentiment, and it was even probably prior to COVID, where you had like Megan Rapinoe and a couple other people who started to, and it was started by, what was it, Colin Kaepernick, I think it was one, where they started kneeling towards the national anthem. Luckily that shit has went away, and we're back to basically we're shaming anybody who kneels during the national anthem. Because look, at the end of the day, the national anthem is not about your political beliefs, right? Like, this country was made upon the sacrifice of, people who sacrificed their lives to give us this way of life, these freedoms. And you need to respect that regardless of your political beliefs, and I don't care who's in office, even if it's somebody who's in office who I didn't vote for, who I'm not a fan of. I still want that person in our country to do well, because, at the end of the day, we're a human race, we're a culture, we're the American people, even the human race among the entire world. We want to move we want to progress together. Everybody wants this world to be better. We want everybody's lives to be better, right? It's not if my country gets better, your country gets worse at the same time. No, we can all, this society across the world can get better together, but you gotta not be stupid about it.
And Americans are not embarrassed by it. They are proud. I am proud to be in America. And for many Europeans, that is a huge cultural shock, because in Europe, especially in Germany, we are often taught that national pride is dangerous. But in America, you see something different. You see that pride does not mean hate. You can love your country without hating someone else's country. And honestly, that's one of the things I admire most about America. Americans are not ashamed of loving America. And they shouldn't be, because this is a beautiful country. And I think the World Cup is showing that to a lot of people who never understood it before. The next shock for Europeans is something Americans probably take completely for granted: the supermarket. I know this sounds funny, but for many Europeans, walking into Walmart, Costco, Buc-ee's, or even a normal...
This is completely true, because I've spent so much time living abroad. And like I said, I enjoy going to other countries, and I love visiting. I've even lived in a number of these countries for quite a while. Once again, who is anybody to know? I actually grew up in Germany. It's cool, but like some of the things that within the United States like are just like conveniences that people who don't travel outside the United States don't understand how awesome this is. To be able to just go to one place and find everything you need. Yeah, that's definitely not a thing in almost every country in the world. And he talks about it. You have to go to multiple places, and this is definitely a thing. Like every item that you have, generally, unless it's like in the same particular category, you have to go to a different store for every single one of them, right? And sometimes they're not the easiest to go to. And anybody knows parking in Europe is, especially in cities, is never the easiest thing.
A big American grocery store is actually part of the vacation, because in Germany, grocery stores are usually much smaller. The aisles are much smaller. The packages are small. The selection is smaller. Parking lots are smaller. Everything is more compact. In Germany, if you need 5 different things, you often have to go to 3 different stores. In America, you walk into one place and somehow you can buy groceries, clothes, medicine, a grill, tires, a fishing rod, a giant TV, and then you can eat a hot dog on the way out. To Americans, this is completely normal. To Germans, that feels like Disneyland with better parking. And the sizes alone are shocking. A gallon of milk, that is already impressive to a German. In Germany, milk is usually 1 liter. That is basically about 1.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest differences is size, right? Like everything is bigger. Like especially when you go to Costco, like everything, like bulk items, like that, to the typical European mind, the size of stuffs that they sell in Costco, it blows their mind. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's the reaction that we're getting through the World Cup has just been awesome. And just there's a mutual sharing of cultures, which has been pretty awesome. That's been going on through this. I missed the drive through Liquor's stores when I was in Sao Paulo. Yeah, definitely. There are certain countries that definitely have gotten certain things that have better than us, right? And like our boy over here talking about Sao Paulo, yes, drive-in liquor stores are super cool. I definitely feel like there's a couple things that we could still bring from smaller cultures to make the United States even better. And there's definitely some countries who are still doing it right.
Quad. So when I first saw Americans buying a whole gallon of milk, I was like, are you feeding a whole kindergarten? And yes, Europeans love to make fun of this. They say everything in America is too big. But then they walk through Costco for 2 hours taking videos, because deep down they love it. And that is the funny thing about America.
That's all those samples you get.
Criticize the size,
delicious,
the convenience, the choice, the abundance. But when they experience it, they understand why Americans like it. Because it is practical. It gives you options. And Americans love options. Another thing Europeans experience here is freedom. I don't mean this as a political speech. Everyday freedom. The freedom to have space to drive. The freedom to choose, the freedom to speak more openly, the freedom to live in a way that is not always controlled by.
This is a really big thing, and everybody, especially our Rhyme Time UK, and obviously you'll be able to speak to this as well. If anybody who knows what's going on, especially in England right now, I think England has arrested more people for social media posts than any other crime in England. It's something like that, or just England has done more arrests for social media posts than any other country in the world. And so that's kind of if you think about that, think about all the freedoms that we have just to be able to go online, right? And you can say whatever you want about Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever's been president or whoever runs a particular company or somebody who's in office. Like, we have that ability to be like, dude, you're stupid, right? And you can even say things that are not even true, right? You can call somebody who's maybe sexually assaulted somebody who didn't actually do it. And unless that person decides to do a civil lawsuit against you for defamation, there's no criminal thing. Like, there's going to be really no criminal action against that. But people in England right now are going through, like, they're just simply, and they're not even being super direct. Like, they're like making posts like maybe just criticizing something within about Islamic culture, and boom, straight to jail. And that's one of the reasons why that this issue with the and you guys can bring it, I forget his name, the kid that just got killed in England, the guy who was a Sikh, who and he got stabbed, and obviously he was in the process of dying, and they handcuffed him because the dude claimed he made some sort of racial comment or slur or something like that. Stuff like that happens, or like, it's unfortunate that we get there, right? And I'm not, but luckily you'll also notice that there is a bit of a cultural revolution going on in England because of it, right? Like, that's why Starmer just had to resign, and the Conservative Party within that country is starting to essentially grow. And we had a similar thing that happened within the United States, right? We kind of went too far left, and then now we're recorrecting, right? Can we go too far right as Americans? Absolutely. And that's why I think it's very important that you have two political parties, at least, who are close to center, because almost every person is in somewhere within the center. You may lean slightly one way, generally, or maybe just on a particular issue, or lean the other way, right? But most of us are in the center. And if you have one party that's closer to the center and the other one's off on the fringes, whether it's the left or the right, that party's never going to win. And when you have a political party, and this is currently what's going on in the United States, the Democratic Party has sort of lost its way so badly that if they don't fix their stuff and come back more towards the center, the Republican Party is going to keep winning. And that's a bad thing, because if the Republican Party keeps winning, then they're unchecked, and then they can go off and do their own crazy things. And every political party has the ability to do this. So whether you're somebody who traditionally is Republican, a Democrat, you want both parties to be strong. You want it to be a competition, right? So I want people to think about that, because, I grew up in a Republican household, and I can tell you that I'm way more center than any of my other family. And there's a lot of issues that I lean left on. But I can tell you that even though I was glad that Trump beat Biden, I do not want the Democrat. I want the Democratic Party to recover, because for the good of the Republican Party and the overall United States, we need both parties to be competitive, or else one party is just going to go off the fucking deep end, and we're going to be in a world of hurt. Yeah.
What everyone else thinks. This is something I noticed very strongly after moving here. In Germany, there's a rule for everything. And sometimes there's a rule for the rule. And then there's a person who explains to you why you broke.
Yeah, I actually do want to bring this up. So on Traumer, he says the worst thing that happened in the F-16 files is the lesser thing in that report. Absolutely. Okay, so he's talking about, let me bring this one up. Okay, so he's talking about, if you read the rape report that just came out, you'll be disturbed. Absolutely. So if you haven't, there's a couple of content creators who have already sort of covered it. You can go to Asmongold, a couple other people. But just the opposition leader, the Conservative Party leader, he did a quick little recap of it. But yeah, if you have not seen the rape report that just came out in England, go see it. It is staggering, right? And it's been going on for, I think what the last it's a report from the last 70 years that's been going on. And this is just an example. And I don't care what country you come from. This needs to be unacceptable. I don't care. Like I'm sorry, not all cultures are created equal. If you're in a culture where rape is acceptable, I'm sorry, your culture does not need to be around. All right. It needs to eventually fade out. There's a lot of different ways that can happen, but that's a hill that I'm going to die on. If your culture believes in rape, I don't think your culture needs to stick around. So, Sweden has become a little bit of a police state. That's true. Rhyme, the news has not covered the rape gang issues. Asmongold covered. It's all horrific. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, go to Asmongold. You look at the rape thing, he covered it. And obviously the reason why any of these things do not get covered, right? Why do these things not get covered? Because they don't fit a political party's narrative. Just like if anything bad happens to some Democratic big person of the Democratic Party, the right is going to cover it, right? But the left is not going to cover it, right? And the current political party within England that has a majority of the media is embarrassed by this report, so they're not going to cover it. So luckily, we live in an era we don't have to wait for mainstream media to get this particular information, and you can go to independent people who cover these type of things, like Asmongold, Joe Rogan, all these other people. So it's when we're able to be more informed of what's going on in our society. But definitely go check that out, and make your own assumptions for what goes going on in the report. But it's really sad that we've let it go on for so long. Yeah, and to be honest, and this is a good point, he says even that piece of shit, the UK is implicit, right? Because a lot of people, whether you're on the left or the right, there have been a lot of people who have turned their eye, especially politics, because they needed to get through and they couldn't anger the people who were at the top, right? That's the wrong fucking answer, right? If you see something wrong, call it out. If that means that you're going to end your career, hey, fuck, that's a fucking hill I'm going to die on. I don't give a fuck, right? Don't be quiet, because there's this, and it's from this movie, you'll hear it, and it's been quoted many times, but it's one of my favorite movie, Boondock Saints. And in the movie, the priest, when they're coming into the church at the beginning of the movie, he's talking about some woman who's getting stabbed to death while bystanders watched, right? And we've seen this time and time again. And he says specifically, there's only one evil that is greater than evil people, and that is the indifference of good people. That is greater than is a greater evil than the evil of evil people, right? Because you choose not to do the right thing. Like that's even worse. Like if you do nothing and you just let like things go by, then what's the fucking point, right? I know I might be getting a little like this, but these are one of the things that really get me. There are very many things that get me kind of amped up and get me upset. But when good people see bad shit go down and don't fucking say anything, that is one of the things that I will fucking go off on. That will get me fucking angry. And I'm not fucking very stoic after that. And I'll tell you that right now. Joshua George, USA needs a third party. Yes, I would agree. I think that having more parties, I think one of the issues that we have is that we only have two political parties. But with anything, there's pros and cons. But I think generally, I think it's good to have more parties than just two. Yeah. Starmer let off 13,000 suspected rape game members with just warning letters. And we do something similar, not is that to like we don't have the same like level of rape report in the United States, but there are many instances, a lot of these people who are committing murders, and then we find out that they were just let go by a judge, and it was like their sixth offense or something crazy like that. So this is going on everywhere in the world, and we just as a people of this world, we just need to stand against it, and just fuck your political fucking your political affiliations, right? Like you can have political views on things, but don't be beholden to people or members of a party just because they share your political affiliation. That may not be your fucking friends. Like you see bad people do bad shit, who cares what fucking political party they're in? Fucking call them out. right? If I see fucking people on the right, I'm gonna fucking call them out. See people on the left, I'm gonna call them the fuck out. I don't fucking care, and neither should you. And you guys got me all fucking excited tonight. Yeah. All evil is good men that do nothing. You're absolutely right. There are some people who are just in. Most people are not inherently evil, but there are some people who are. Yes. Yeah. No, you guys fucking get it.
Broke the rule. In America, things can be chaotic, yes. But there's also this feeling that life is more open. You can try something. You can build something. You can move somewhere.
You guys hear me?
You
Okay.
can reinvent yourself.
We're good.
And I think that is one
For some
reason
reason, my voice
America
off.
attracts so many people. Not because everything is easy, but because people feel like something is possible. And this is also why some Europeans are fascinated by things they criticize from far away. For example, guns. Europeans love to criticize American gun culture. But I have to be honest, almost every European friend I ever had visiting America wanted to go to the shooting range. They might never admit this back home, but once they're here, they're curious. And this is something they don't have. And whether someone likes it or not, it shows them that America has a different relationship with freedom and responsibility. And
that's a big part of it, right? Like, I think that's not something that's really talked about when it comes to the gun argument, is that one of the reasons that we are allowed to have guns is obviously there's a founding principle within the United States, because we believe that we were under the heel of a tyrannical government, which was the British Empire back in the late 1700s. And because we had weapons, we were able to overthrow that tyranny and create a country that we wanted, right? And that's what birthed the United States. And we, in the founding fathers, knew that this was a possibility, that even within the United States domestically, we might be under the essentially influence of another tyrannical government, even by the unfortunate making of the United States, with the United States. So they wanted to make sure that the Second Amendment was never taken away, because you don't mess, you can't take control of a population that's armed, right? And they say an armed society is a polite society, right? And there's definitely some truth to that, right? But is there a downside to that? Is there a con? Absolutely. But that's part of that American culture, is that we give our citizens that extra level of responsibility. We also need to have that extra level of accountability, which is very, very important. But we do give that level of responsibility. And anybody who knows, and anybody who's around, most gun owners that you meet in the United States are responsible, right? They have their weapons, they go hunting, they use them for obviously self-defense, and they are very responsible. Gun safes, you know, we definitely really try to project positive gun culture, which is like, when I learned how to handle weapons, especially in the military and in special operations, you always fear your weapon, right? Because the second that you lose fear of that weapon is when it's going to bite you in your ass. It's when you're going to do a negligent discharge. That's when you're going to accidentally shoot somebody who you shouldn't, right? Fear that weapon, right? But that's that extra level of responsibility. That's that extra level of accountability that we put on with our citizens. And then you have to have that, those have to go together. So that's, that makes sense. So that's one of the things that people don't quite understand, but that's one of the best parts, right? With that extra freedom, is that a possibility that someone is going to abuse it? Absolutely. But we take the good with the bad, right? And that's every country. No country is perfect. So I think people experiencing that, and then you experience that positive gun culture within the United States, because there are some, just using a generalization, the gangbangers and things like that, because most of the crimes that are committed with weapons a lot of them are not registered weapons. They didn't buy them legally, right? And even though we have these things that we're put in ways we're trying to stop people from buying weapons illegally, that they still find ways to get around it. So and then do you take weapons away from people who do buy them legally? So it is an argument, right? It is a discussion which you should be willing to have with anybody. It's not set in stone, but it's a good concept.
is also part of the bigger picture. A lot of Europeans criticize American freedom until they get a little taste of it. Then suddenly they understand why Americans care so much about it. And now with the World Cup, many Europeans are also discovering something they were told was fake: American friendliness. In Germany, if someone smiles too much, people get suspicious. Why are you smiling? What do you want from me?
This is
Are you
funny. This is
trying to
true,
sell me
actually.
insurance? So
When you're walking around, so somebody who's had to who also grew up in another country outside the United States and also had to operate professionally in countries where I not always tried to appear, I actually would appear not as an American. There are a couple things that you don't realize that you do as Americans that nobody else does. And one of the things is when we're walking by people, when we do the smile at your random stranger, yeah, other countries don't do that. So as somebody who is trying to pretend to be somebody else, and try to basically minimize my Americanness, I had to learn that I did that. And I had to start going around and just basically doing what most people do, which is either one, you just don't make eye contact, but if you do, no smile. Nothing but mean mugging all day long. Resting bitch face, bam. It is what it is.
Germans come to America and strangers talk to them, smile at them, compliment them, or ask where they're from. Many of them think it is fake because that is the stereotype. Americans are fake. Americans smile too much. Americans say, "How are you?" but they don't mean it. And yes, American friendliness can feel different when you first experience it. But after a while, you realize something. A lot of it is actually genuine. People are just more open. They talk to strangers. They help you. They ask.
I'm telling you, if you go to the South, you go down to Alabama, Georgia, down to those places, and you could just go to get your gas, you're going to have a 15, 20-minute conversation. You're going to learn about this woman who's working who's the gas station attendant. And they want to learn everything about you. I'm telling you. Sweetheart, sugar plum, whatever they call you.
Questions. They give compliments and they make small talk. And for many Europeans, that is completely new. I have had more random conversations with strangers in America than I had in years in Germany. At gas stations, at restaurants, at the airport, even in elevators. Sometimes it is only 30 seconds, but it still makes your day. And I think this is something Europeans really underestimate about America. The warmth. America can be loud. America can be chaotic. It can be intense. But America is also incredible warm. That warmth is real. The restaurant experience is another thing that blows European minds. Because yes, service in America is better. I know people in Europe love to complain about tipping. And I understand it. Tipping culture can be annoying.
I will agree. I am not the biggest fan of tipping culture. I think it's actually stupid. It's got out of hand. Like there are certain things that we do well, but there are certain things that I feel like we should kick out of our culture and then pull things in. Like, for example, I think in certain states there actually are drive-through liquor stores. But I definitely think that nationwide we should have drive-through liquor stores. But and I don't know exactly what would be the second and third order effects or the ramifications of getting rid of tipping culture. But yeah, that's one part of American culture I'm not the biggest fan of is tipping culture. But yeah, I digress.
But let's be honest, the service is usually much better. In Germany or France, sometimes it feels like you're bothering the waiter by being in the restaurant. You sit down and, "Excuse me, can I please give you my money?" And they look at you like you ruined their day. In America, the waiter comes over, smiles, asks, "How are you doing?" checks on you, brings refills, and actually tries to make the experience good. And when you're used to European service, that feels almost luxurious. I have even become friends with waiters at places I often go to. That would be very unusual in Germany. And then we have one of the greatest American inventions of all time. Free refills. I still love this. You pay for one coffee and then you can drink more than one coffee. You pay for one Coke and they just bring you more. To Americans, this is normal. To Europeans, this feels illegal. And free water. Americans do not understand how amazing this is. In Germany, you often have to pay for water in a restaurant, not just a little bit. Sometimes the water costs almost as much as other drinks. So when Europeans come to America.
So I think this is a good point. Let me bring this up. So Rack Shadow says prices would go up due to actually having to pay waitresses and like to live like a living wage, right? So basically what he's saying is that if we, if we took away tipping, we just paid more, all right? And then that would actually force companies to pay waitresses actual wages, because this is one of the main reasons why I disagree with the whole tipping culture, is because of it they're actually able to, and this is specifically for waitresses, and because I'm gonna get on a tangent here, but they don't make minimum wage because they get a lot of the things through tipping, right? And there's a lot of nuances that come with how tipping is enforced in different restaurants, and I think it's state by state of how it's then distributed by the other people. And then now I'm going to a Starbucks and they're asking me if I want a tip. Look, my general rule is if I had to get up to go and walk and to go order my food, like if you did not bring it to me, I'm not tipping you, right? That's the general rule that I follow. But I've dated people who are waitresses, and I can tell you the frustrating part is they don't get minimum wage. They deal with tips, which can be volatile, right? They can go up, they can go down. And if you have a kid or something like that, or it's hard to plan a life when you don't have a consistent level of income. So I personally think I would rather pay for my food a little bit more, and then also help out the waitresses, and just in general, just get rid of fucking tipping culture, because it works actually in the European nations. I will tell you that, like, where you don't tip, it's just fine. I know exactly what I'm paying. It's written on the bill. And then boom, that's fine. I would rather pay that and then help out the people who actually need it, who are the waitresses, who are victim of tipping culture, and then all the others of businesses who actually get minimum wage, but then just asking for tips. Nah, bro, I ain't giving you tips at Starbucks. I'm sorry. I just did that entire one with my face covered. It is what it is. I gotta remember.
And someone just brings them a huge glass of water for free. It almost feels like civilization has reached its final form. And then comes the food. Europeans love to say American food is terrible. And then they come here and eat like they're preparing for winter. Barbecue, brisket, burger.
Anyways, not really been In and Out. That is delicious. Let me see if I can move this. Can I move this? Huh. All right. I got to figure out how to move this thing. All right. I'll do it on the next stream. Anyways. So yeah, plus I don't mind tipping. Like if I'm at a service, like if I'm at a restaurant and suddenly someone has really good service and the waitress did awesome, I'm definitely all about tipping them just to do the great job. But this expected tipping culture, and now that it's sort of been adopted and bastardized by services that shouldn't be tipping. Like I keep going back to Starbucks, but this is an example, right?
Wings, pancakes, waffles, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, Texas Roadhouse, Waffle House at 1 a.m. in the morning. Suddenly, everyone is quiet.
I feel like this is one of the things that every non-American needs to experience is Waffle House 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Like it is, I don't want to give it away, but it is a culture, especially if you are drunk or in a hangover, eating that level of greasy food. It's a culture. And also the people watching at a Waffle House, it's like you get your food and you're going to like an amusement park. Like you're getting to watch the craziness that's going on. I'm telling you, Waffle House never disappoints. If you've never been to a Waffle House, I'm telling you, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, hangover, drinking, whatever it is, or you want to do that shit sober, hey, all power to you, but I'm telling you, experience it.
In Germany, fast food is basically McDonald's, Burger King, and Döner. And I love Döner, but America has an insane food culture. And not just fast food. That is another stereotype Europeans get wrong. They think American food means only fast food. But America is a true melting pot. You can find Mexican food, Cuban food, Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese food, Italian food,
Korean
barbecue,
barbecue,
seafood,
legit,
diners,
bro.
steakhouse, food trucks, everything.
Mexican.
And in many places, the quality is
Sushi.
incredible. That is
Awesome.
what makes America so special. People from all over the world come here and brought their food, their culture, their work ethic, their dreams, and somehow all of that.
That's what made me laugh. You have to fight the cook. You have to fight the cook at the Waffle House. That's actually, I'm sure that there's actually some science like based evidence to this. The better the cook can fight at a Waffle House, the better his food is. All right. I haven't tested this. I don't have exact statistics to back this up, but this is a theory of mine. The better the cook can cook, the better he can fight. This is a Waffle House thing. Look, like with, okay, look, and I get what you guys are saying, right? But I want to go back to Americanisms, right? This is part of the big freedoms, right? Big freedoms come with big risks. You know, great power comes with great responsibility. I'm telling you, right? Is the experience at a Waffle House have the potential to be absolutely amazing? And 100%. Does it also have the possibility to be absolutely effing horrible? Absolutely. But I'm telling you, either way, you're getting an amazing experience. You are going to have an experience that you will never forget for the rest of your life, for better or for worse. We'll just leave it at that.
Become America. That is beautiful. And I think Europeans feel that when they come here, even if they don't know how to explain it, they just feel that America has energy. And then Europeans start to understand the size of this country. Because from Europe, America looks like one country. But when you're here, you realize it feels like 50 different countries. Florida is not Texas. Texas is not New York. New York is not Arizona. Arizona is not Hawaii. And Hawaii does not even feel real. And suddenly you understand why.
All right, let's go do this. Let's see if I can. All right, okay. I think this is a little bit better to do the talking points, right? So I feel like we're going to be started. Oh, I want to go back to what he just said about Hawaii, right? If anybody has ever been to, like, you know, we have so many different cultures within the United States, but I can tell you that Hawaii is definitely like going to a foreign country. One, if you ever go there, which, you know, I had friends who lived there, and I used to go visit them in Hawaii when I lived on the West Coast. There is a lot of people think that you're going to see a lot of Hawaiians, but no, it's actually mostly Asian people, like specifically Japanese. It's probably the largest culture outside of the Hawaiians themselves. There's a lot of big Japanese culture there. But that state, whole different, completely vibe compared to the rest of the United States. But I want to go back to this comment from Ann Shammer. Anna Schrammer. On us hammer. You know, so many people, you know, I don't know how to pronounce your names with these names or whatever. Anyways, so he says, Viking, you're a beast and handle yourself, but most can't. You know, maybe I have to understand and sit back here for a second and understand that, you know, because I typically can handle myself, at least I like to think so. You know, maybe that's why I think that Waffle House is so much fun. So maybe I should, you know, walk it back a little bit, have that caveat, like, hey, go to Waffle House, but be ready to throw hands, all right? Because, you know, if you want that good greasy food, you got to be ready to throw hands. I think that's the caveat that I need to put up from now on whenever we're talking about this specifically. So it is what it is. An ass or hammer. Okay, there we go. Spam and meth heads, dude. You are so right, dude. If you've not, like, when the first time I went to Hawaii, dude, I didn't really know what spam was. I'm not gonna lie, I like spam. Shit's delicious. That's pretty good. The best way to fight is to avoid it. You're not wrong, but if you want that sweet greasy food, you know, that I want to think of the names. I forget what they call their different breakfast, and how you get like the hash browns loaded. I usually have like that melted cheese with the ham on top of it. I forget, they had the names for it. It's been a while since I've been to one, right? Obviously, it's been a while since I've been in a fight, as you can tell, because I haven't been to a Waffle House in a while. All right, people keep calling. They need to leave me alone. All right, I'm trying to get shit done here. All right, let's get
why Americans drive so much. You understand why everything is built around cars. And yes, even the big trucks start to make more sense. I used to look at American pickup trucks and think, why does anyone need us? Now I'm at a point where owning a truck in America is literally one of.
All right, let me clarify this statement. All right, because this could be get out there misinformation. You didn't know what spam was. Technically, I knew what spam was. Right, I had heard about it. I'm pretty sure I'd seen it in a movie or something like that, but I'd never eaten it. Right, I always knew there's something that's canned. You hear people talk about it in movies. And mind you, I grew up in Germany. All right, spam's not really a thing in Germany. So, I too had to experience American culture, and I didn't really experience American culture till I was like 13. So, all right, so yes, I did know what spam was. I just didn't know I had it. Right. So that is the important distinction. So yeah.
My dreams. That is how much this country changed me. A German guy who used to think a small hatchback was enough is now looking at an F-150 like, yeah, I get it. In Germany, a truck like this would feel completely out of place. But here, the distances are bigger, the roads are wider, people carry more stuff, people have boats, tools, trailers, kids, dogs, everything. Here it fits the country. And for many Europeans, 100-degree Fahrenheit is not normal. That is the.
Yeah. So also something that's really interesting about this, right? And so I have went to many countries to play polo. So I have a big pickup truck, and I pull my 6-horse trailer, and I pull all my horses within that said trailer, right? So most places, and I've went to a number of places. I've played polo in China. I've played polo in Argentina. I've played polo in Nigeria. I've played polo in England, right? And I'll use this comparison for England. So in the United States, when you're driving around horse country, every big trailer is pulled by a big pickup truck. In England, all the horse trailers are pulled by these tiny little, they look almost like they're like the fronts of like semis, where they're like flat in the front, because they don't have the same level of room, because one, the roads are smaller, so they have everything there, including things that pull their horse trailers, are more compact. Because when you're driving something that has a rig, this kind of thing, you have something that's called trailover, which is your rear wheels are actually going to cheat in front of your front wheels. So even pulling trailers inside the UK and other countries like Europe, they do this as well. They have to have completely different design vehicles, because even pickup trucks pulling that type of stuff would not fit really in a lot of places within Europe, in a lot of the streets. So they have to make everything smaller. And one, even having a pickup truck in the United States, it kind of sucks for parking. And I can tell you, you would never find parking in Europe. So that's one of the reasons why it's such a foreign concept to them, because it just wouldn't fly as far as like logistically in those countries.
Vacation in Spain weather. But in some parts of America, that is just a Tuesday. And then in other parts, you have snowstorms, deserts, mountains, beaches, hurricanes, tornadoes, all in the same country. America is massive. And this is what the World Cup is really showing people. America is not just one thing. America is not just politics. America is not just headlines. It is not just Hollywood. America is not just the negative clips that go viral. America is a real country with real people. Millions of those people are kind, proud, generous, funny, welcoming, and generally happy to show visitors a good time. That is why this World Cup is so powerful, because Europeans are not being lectured. They are just experiencing it. And experience changes minds way more than arguments. I can tell someone in Germany 100 times that America is not what they think. But if they come here, walk into Walmart, eat barbecue, talk to strangers, see the flags, go to the stadium, drive across the country and get free refills at a diner. That does.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, you guys want to try something? Let's try. So I actually have YouTube Premium, so I can watch. I bought the thing so we can watch. You guys want to see if we can watch the World Cup? Oh, we can watch the fall of Starmer on 2C TV. Let's go to Fox One. Is it on right now? It's upcoming. Yeah. If I hide the logos with my face. So, but I think we can definitely try this. I'm gonna do some research. So I think we're gonna do some research since I paid for it. At least see if there's any way that there are some strategies how to stream it, because I think that would actually be fun. Because yeah. So let's leave this. We're gonna call this for now. Just because I don't want YouTube to hate me and take down my entire stream, or at least we have it to edit or something like that. It's good. France will surrender. Absolutely. It's what France does. Look, if you didn't want the stereotype, then stop doing it, right? Go win a couple wars or something, right? And you maybe will think differently about your brother. So, yeah. So anyways, we are at 2 hours. I appreciate you guys. I've enjoyed it. And Wednesday, so I'm going to look more into the streaming as far as the World Cup. We'll see if there's a way to get around it. But yeah, look, stereotypes are awesome if you just understand what they are. Like, they're fun, right? And they're stereotypes for a reason, right? There's stereotypes about, Irish people, white boys, everybody's got stereotypes, right? They're fun. They're fun if you let them to be, right? If you want to get fucking butthurt about fucking everything, like, bro, your life is gonna be hard, dude. Look, first of all, we're not on this world for very long. Like, you're not gonna be alive. Like, tomorrow could be your next day, dude. Don't take life too seriously. You're never getting out alive, bro. It's good. Just relax. Just relax. Anyways, yeah, exactly. That's right. And that's our hammer. All right. I will talk to you guys later. All right. And then I will put a post up on the YouTube if I figure out how to stream the games, but we shall see. Maybe I may have to do through some like third-party apps or something like that, but we shall see. So I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a good night, and we should be back on Wednesday, and we'll definitely be on Friday. And then Saturday, we are going to release a pre-recorded video about my tier list for the different special operations units, not just the United States, England, Israel, America. We'll touch on some of the other European nations special operations, and I'm going to rate them in a tier system. And I think people will be interested. Some people are going to be butthurt. I'm not going to lie. I guarantee you I'm going to get a lot of hate from the Marine Raiders, not Marine Force Recon, Marine Raiders. But I have my reasons, and I will give them, all right? And I'll be objective, I promise, or as much as I can. I'll talk to you guys later.